Okay, hello everyone. Let me know if you can hear me well. I see there's a few of you here already. Alias Jones, don't know what the new day will bring, but I'm ready for it. Yeah, that's the idea. Neville Mead, I've been advised to open a Chinese or Hong Kong bank account. I opened a Bank of China account about 10 years ago in London, and but I don't really have anything in there. I don't think it's a great idea, especially with what's happened to all the sanctions against Russia. Yeah, I wouldn't really put any do that, but it's up to you, of course. Crypto Chris, hi Crypto Chris card. Henstar One, what's your opinion about UK premium bonds? Well, they're in pounds. So if you think the pound is going to be very strong in the next few years, then it's okay. But if you don't, I wouldn't touch them. Yes, they're guaranteed by the government, so they're probably safer than in a bank, but they're not going to hold their purchasing power. Danielle E, I'm not too familiar with IRAs, so I don't really want to answer that. Divi Inabavi, get your cash out of any UK bank ASAP. Well, you still need cash in the bank to pay your bills, but yeah, it's not a bad thing to have some cash ready or at home, I would say. The drawback is here. Belly Dance Arabia. Hi, Belly Dance. Duji is here. Neo D. Sarba Jujo. Yeah, Billy is here. There he is. Sounds good. Pablo Pina, normal. Now is evolution or whatever says, now I know what it felt like to be on the Titanic. Hopefully you jumped off and you're on the lifeboat. Hi, Blanco. Derm, nice to see you here. John the Glass, hi, John. Dale Jowenheimer, ASL from Alberta, Edmonton. No, hi, No. Cozy Fantute. Do you see silver and gold rising in fiat value by year end? Well, it has been rising in the fiat that I'm using here in the UK. It's over 10%. But yeah, it's difficult to say against the dollar, even though I think silver is actually held up relatively well. Gold has made new lows this week, last week in dollars, but silver didn't. So I think that's probably a good sign. I don't know where it will be at the end of the year relative to the dollar. But long term, I know that gold and silver will hold their purchasing power a lot better than any fiat, because not that I'm a prophet or have a crystal ball, it's just that it's always been like that. Spock 2024, hi Spock. Paul Stahl from Outer Mongolia. Billy is the brains behind the operation. Yeah. Yeah, people with floating rate mortgages. Yeah, in the UK, they don't have very long-term fixed rate mortgages. It's usually 2 and 5 years. So I think next year there will be a lot of people in trouble because they took rates were really low last year, and people loaded up on big mortgages, and yeah, it's going to be painful. And H says, nice shirt, thank you. It's getting cooler, so it's a long sleeve shirt. Platinum, I don't really follow platinum, William, PMCD. It's a precious metal, but I never really been too interested in platinum, so that's all I can say. But I think it will do well as in the next decade because it's a metal, and I think all hard assets will do relatively well. Well, relative to paper assets, they will do very well. Ant says bought a sovereign just before the pound fell. Good timing. How safe is final salary pension at the moment? Well, I'm not really too familiar with the ins and outs of that. It depends, I guess, what company it's under. If it's a bank, it could be a little bit in trouble. We've seen Credit Suisse plummet last week. They're talking about splitting the bank and having a bad bank. That's not a good sign. Apart from that, I can't really say much. Thomas Moran, have you heard the Bank of England might have an emergency meeting this week and raise rates again? Well, yeah, I've seen that there are people saying they should do that because the pound could drop even further. But yeah, it's just a rumor and speculation. I'm not sure it would work. I mean, if they were to raise rates, they'd have to raise at least 1% to stop the pound from dropping. But I don't think it's going to do any good. I don't think they will do it. It would show that they're panicking, even though it looks pretty bad already. Echoes here. Chill. Just watch a 1-hour video on GATA, how determined that the Fed Treasury have been manipulating metal. Oh yeah, I mean, gold is the anti-dollar, and they have to keep a semblance of strength as much as they can. Eventually, though, gold will win because it always does against fiat currencies. John Bethia, is the American dollar pulling down European money? Well, yeah, the dollar is, if you go back to 1944, it's at the center still of the monetary because we don't have money, a monetary system, but so yeah, it's the center of the system. So when there's a crisis like now, currency crisis, it starts in the periphery and it flows to the dollar, but eventually even the dollar is going to suffer because the dollar is probably the worst really in terms of fundamentals of all the fiat currencies because of all the debt, all the huge budget deficits, all the huge trade deficits, and yeah, the huge balance sheet of the Fed. So yeah, it's just another fiat currency. But the other thing as well that I wanted to talk about is that some people might think some people in the UK might think of opening dollar accounts and having, because some banks like Citibank, I used to have an account with Citibank, they provide for dollar accounts. Some other banks might as well, and to put their money in dollars. And I think that's a dangerous situation because if the pound really collapses, you could see the UK Treasury or the government take over those accounts and ask the banks to give them the dollars, and they'll give, instead of having dollars, you're going to have pounds. And that's what happened in Argentina in 2001. It was called the Corralito. And people who thought they had dollars ended up with Argentine government bonds. So that's the other thing that people need to consider if they're thinking of having dollars in the UK. And that's why I think it's always better to have gold and silver outside the system, outside the banks. Golden Gate, great work, Mario. When will the price of gold and silver go up in dollars? I don't know. I don't know when it's going to go up, but in the short term, I don't know. It's difficult to say. But long term, I mean, the fiat currencies always go down, as I just said about 10 minutes ago. How can we stop CBDC? Well, we need to talk about it and tell people that it's bad. That's the only way. Silver tax seems to be sovereign sold out in most bullion dealers. I don't think so. I mean, Gold Investments doesn't have any problems sourcing it, at least until last week. Yeah, I think sovereigns, yeah, they're probably pushing 390 now. There's probably a good premium for them. Central Bank of Australia, 37 billion in losses. Yeah, I saw that. That's what's happening now with all the bonds dropping and yields rising, because a lot of these central banks, they bought bonds through their QE. BP, is it possible for banks in Western countries to cancel fixed rate mortgages and convert them to a floating rate? No, I don't. Well, anything's possible, but I've never seen that before. Who knows? No gold Britannia's. Yeah, I saw that. I was looking at Atkinson's. Gold Investments has gold Britannia's. Lisa Newland. Oh, the Exeter's pyramid poll. I actually didn't vote because it was my tweet, but I would vote probably 3 months to 12 months. I think 5 years is yeah, I put 5 years just as a, yeah, I would be inclined to vote 3 months. Carlos Garcia thinks gold mines could be nationalized. Yeah, yeah. Again, that is a risk, but I'm not too sure if governments want to own gold mines. They're probably better off allowing the private sector to do that. Governments always screw up private businesses. So it's 9 o'clock. The title of the live stream is Last Chance Saloon for UK Economy, as Truss and Kwarteng throw caution to the wind. So yeah, Truss, of course, is the new prime minister. Kwarteng is the chancellor, and they've come out with this mini budget. And it's quite radical for the mainstream. And everyone, and actually, I'm a little bit concerned because I think it's a dangerous budget, because even though it cuts taxes and regulations, it also increases government spending, which is a really bad thing, especially now that interest rates are rising and bond markets are dropping and inflation's rising. So it's a huge gamble. What worries me is that a lot of the people in the mainstream now agree with me, but none of them actually say that this budget would work if they had cut the size of government or cut spending. So I have a bad feeling about this budget. It's not going to work. If this kind of stuff worked, Argentina, Brazil, Zimbabwe would be very rich countries. They'd never have inflation or hyperinflation. And unfortunately, that's the way I think we're going in the UK. Echo, if a bank failed, perhaps their fixed rate mortgage holders would end up on a variable rate. It could be. Alex, I have watched many videos, people saying if the bond market goes to a certain level, the whole lot will collapse. The level has gone way past that. Why is it still working? Well, it's not working for the UK because our currency has dropped from 140 to almost one in just over a year. Why is that working? Maybe there's still a lot of manipulation by the central banks. They're still buying a lot of stuff, even though they're saying they're tightening. But yeah, and things are breaking, and the only reason they're not getting worse is because governments now have intervened, and they're throwing a lot of money into the system to cap energy prices. So I think that's why it hasn't broken yet. But something will definitely break, and I think it will be the currencies. If you go back to 2000, we had the dot-com bubble. That was like a stock market mania. And then in 08, 09, we had a housing and banking collapse. And I think the next collapse, which we're very close to, is going to be a currency and sovereign debt collapse. So I think we're on the way there, and they're not going to be able to. And I think it's all about faith and confidence, and it can be lost in a very quickly. Martin Bendelo, if you have cash, make sure small denominations, 20-pound notes. JM from North Carolina. Hi, JM. Yeah, someone sent me on Patreon something on a message board saying that the banks were collapsing this weekend, and they're going to close the cash machines. It didn't happen, of course, that cards wouldn't work. But I think that's the last thing they want, the powers that be. They'll keep printing and keep the banks alive. Who knows? Yeah, God bless John Adams. I interviewed him today, Rory Core. Yeah, he couldn't say much because the case has been tried, they're investigating. So for legal reasons, he couldn't go into the details. But I think it's important that he comes out and tells us that we're going to have some kind of big event, at least in Australia, in the next 3 to 6 months. And Greco, is it true the UK, they have to turn in their paper money by September 30th? No, and this is just some old notes that were, yeah, the new notes are made of this plastic. And I think it's just the old 50 pounds and 20-pound notes. It's not, no, it's got nothing to do with what happened, let's say, in India a few years ago. This is something that they've been doing for years, just to phase out the old cotton. They were made of cotton notes for the polymer notes. So it's got nothing to do with what's going on in the system. I haven't seen one of the paper or cotton notes for a couple of years, to be honest. BP in Lebanon, bankers are being physically, yeah, good thing you mentioned that, because I'm going to be interviewing Ali Shahadi, I think is his surname. I interviewed him, I think earlier this year. He's in Beirut, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they did the same thing they did in Argentina. They took everyone's dollars because the local currency started collapsing. So the banks stole people's dollars and said, oh, you can have Lebanese pounds. And that's why I'm saying now, if you have dollars in your bank in the UK, I think you should be careful. I personally would turn it into gold. or even pounds. Well, you have to turn it to pounds first and then into gold and take it out of the banks. Manic Miner, I can't really mention anything about John Adams' case. Tricky Dicky, Mary, what's the best thing to do now with the sterling crashing? Well, if you have been preparing, if you have been stacking, you're fine because the pound is down over 10% versus gold. And what else can you do? Well, if you have a steady income and you've stacked, make sure you buy things that you need. Don't wait to buy them because I think they're going to get more expensive, because what people forget is the more the currency drops, the less it becomes worth. So the less things you will buy. People call that inflation, but it's just it is the inflation of the currency. The government is trying to inflate away the debt, but they're in trouble now because the debt is also dropping and the cost of financing that is going up. Hi, Richard Martin. Scoobyism, what's your level of fear with all that's happening? I'm not fearful at all. That's what they want you to be, fearful. No, I think you should just keep going. And I think Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going, keep walking. So that's what I think. JM, I have heard about the Vatican. I'm not sure if it's the Vatican. They've got the Vatican Bank, and they've got another financial institution within the Vatican, and all they want to do is the Vatican Bank control everything. So I'm not really sure the Vatican knows knows something that we don't, that the banks are going to collapse. Their assets they'll still have stuff with the banks. It's just that it's going to be under the supervision of the Vatican Bank. And that's all. I think people have made a big deal out of this. Not that I'm saying the banks are safe. Billy's right here. Someone asked where Billy is. He's asleep there. Opinion on timelines, US dollar dropping. Difficult to say. I mean, a lot of people look at the dollar as per the dollar index, but the dollar index is just a measure against other currencies that are dropping. If you look at the euro, the euro is, people say, oh, the euro is really weak. But if you look at the euro versus the pound, it actually looks quite strong. So all I'm saying is that, the dollar is at the center, the other currencies are on the periphery. And when the system is imploding, the periphery goes first. And I think the dollar might go down against the other currencies, but I think ultimately the dollar will go down against gold and silver and other hard assets. That's the only way to really devalue the major reserve currency. And that happened back in the early 30s, because you had the collapse of the Credit Anstalt Bank in 1931 in Austria. And then a lot of capital flowed from Europe to the US, and that really strengthened the dollar. And eventually in 1933, a lot of the banks failed in the US, and they had to have a bank holiday. And then Roosevelt had to revalue the price of gold in 1934. So that's, I think, what's going to happen. It's not going to be done by fiat like they did, but it's going to be done through the market. Hi, BR Williams. Grandpa Barney, thank you for your super chat. How come no one's talking about all the market manipulation in the US stock market? naked shorts. It's disgusting, the crime that is committed. The SEC turns its cheek. US government is all corrupt. They rob the world. Well, yeah, I think every market in the world, especially the US market, is manipulated. But I think the manipulation has been on the other side, is the plunge protection team. They have been juicing the market up for decades. Naked shorts, yeah, they have naked shorts also in the precious metals market. It's just everything is a casino, Grandpa Barney. It's a criminal market. There's so much speculation. It's like a bucket shop. It's a huge bucket shop. I don't know if you heard of bucket shops. There are betting shops in the 20s and 30s, and that's all the markets are now. And it's because of all the inflation we've had, all the low rates and the easy. I think the tide is turning now. I have a sip of my water. Echo says, has anyone gone to the cinema this weekend? I haven't been to the cinema in years. So yeah, random head. I wish they would scrap 20% VAT on silver as well. So I've got a few articles here that I've saved to show you guys. So the Germans, for example, I just saw this. It's come out a couple of hours ago. UAE agrees LNG deal with Germany as Berlin looks to replace Russian gas. So I don't know if, yeah, this might help Germany, but I think right now it's a bit too late for the next few months, 6 months. And I don't know how quickly they'll be able to replace all the Russian gas. So I just wanted to show you guys that. What else have we got? In terms of the headline or the title of the live stream, yes. Why is it a big? Why have they thrown caution to the wind, Truss and Kwarteng? Well, because we have huge national debt. We have government spending already at 50% of GDP, and they're increasing government spending to cap energy prices. And at the same time, they're going to encourage consumption by cutting taxes. Not that I don't think cutting taxes is a bad thing, but it's never been done before, so it doesn't look good. The only contrarian thing I think is that I've been looking at a lot of the mainstream commentators, and they agree with me, which is kind of, they've gone contrarian, but I don't think it will work. Dave Humphreys, how can the UK stop our currency from dropping like a stone? Well, it's been brewing for many decades. Actually, there's a really good, I'm gonna try to find it right now and share it with you guys. It's a documentary that was made by Money Week magazine.
Our message was
from Money Week magazine in 2012, and they go back as far as 1909 to explain why we are in the current situation. And unfortunately, I think the debt time bomb is going off as we speak now. So that's the video there. I recommend even Americans should watch it. Anyone around the world should watch it, because it can happen anywhere. So this is the title of the video. And I've spoken about this before on my channel. I've been warning for 6 years about this. Yes, it's taken a while, but hopefully a lot of you who have been listening to me have taken precaution with having some precious metals, and you'll be okay. Yeah, echo, UK could end up having to go back to the IMF. So what should the UK do to save the pound? Well, it might be too late. The Bank of England kept rates for too low for too long. Our governments have been deficit spending for decades. Back in 2010, the Chancellor Osborne said that they were going to have a budget balance or surplus after 2015. And here we are in 2022, 23. And I think the budget deficit is going to be more than 10% now with all the spending to cap energy prices. Yeah, so, and the thing is, the whole economy is so dependent on cheap credit and consumption that the only way to save the pound would be to destroy the economy. So it's a catch-22 situation, unfortunately. Tricky Dicky, thank you for your super chat. We're so used to high taxation, people think it's weird when they cut taxes, might as well go for broke. I agree with you. I agree with you. But what they should be doing as well is cutting the size of government. Maybe they will do that in the future, but the markets don't seem to like it, and the markets are very important. I think foreign investors could lose confidence in the pound, and we have a current account deficit, which is the deficit we run with foreigners, of 8.2%. And we need them to keep financing that. And if the pound keeps dropping, yeah, we could go, we might have to go cap in hand to the IMF. Dilwyn Roberts, free citizenship in Russia for 12 months on the front line. Yeah, I saw that. I think I'll pass. I'm a bit too old to go to the front line. And I think you also get if you die, your family gets like 700,000, is it 700,000 rubles compensation? Alex, do you think UK banks will bail in? Well, there could be a bail-in. I think the rules for bail-ins are in the books because bailouts, I think, are politically not very palatable now. The other thing that's worrying about the banks now is that they've taken the caps on bonuses for the bankers in the city. And I think that's going to create even more speculation from the banks, and it could make the environment even more dangerous. Oh, it's 7 million rubles. Yeah, not 700,000. Yeah, 7 million rubles. Yeah. So that's what, I don't know, $100,000. Daniel says UK should be cutting red tape for those on lowest income. Yeah, the other thing they should have done, I think, instead of cutting, well, cut that, take that 45% top tax rate out, that's fine. But also lift the 20% threshold from 50,000 to 100,000, so that anyone earning up to 100,000 will only be paying 19% tax. And that will make people, incentivize people to work and make money. That should help, but they didn't do that, of course. So yeah, it's 100,000 pounds. Yeah, today is the beginning of the New Year period, Rosh Hashanah for the Hebrew or for the Old Testament calendar. So yeah, I actually didn't realize, and I asked Rafi to come on last week. I sent him an email. He said, "Oh, I can't do it because it's Rosh Hashanah." So there, and I think it goes on for a few days, and it ends with Yom Kippur. I don't think J Force. I don't think they're going to confiscate silver nor gold really. In the 60s and 70s, they limited the amount of gold you could buy. I think it was 6 sovereigns a year. That's why it's important to be stacking before. Well, I don't know if they're going to do that, but anything's possible. And H, yeah, I have been watching. I like the Duran. I actually watched them today. Yeah, I have been watching them. If they loosen insurance company regulations, the UK might get significant new investment in infrastructure. I see. Maybe. I think the problem with the UK, not just the UK, but Europe and even the US, is the size of government. And I think the only way we'll go back to having, let's say, less than 10% of GDP government spending is if we have a currency collapse, because then governments will be neutralized, and we'll have to go back to sound money. That's why gold and silver are so important, because politicians can't print gold and silver. They have to tax you really, and they have to borrow real money, and it's really hard. So can you imagine? Yeah, they wouldn't be able to have this kind of taxation under a sound money system. So until we get back to that, all the talk, I think, unfortunately, is just talk. Rosie, thank you for your super chat. When economies collapse, will interest rates not fall back to zero? Well, back in 2012, the pigs, which is Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, those economies were collapsing, and their interest rates went through the roof because their governments were going bankrupt. So no, I think the cyclical bull market in bonds or cyclical bear market in rates ended probably last year or in 2020, and it was a 40-year bull market. So now I think the trend going forward is for higher rates. Brady Girding thinks Biden could fire Powell. I don't know where you heard that, but if that were to happen, I think that could trigger the dollar to turn around versus the other fiat currencies. I've noticed that Elizabeth Warren has been critical of Jay Powell. Who knows? Over here, would I buy a gold sovereign or a Britannian? I think the Britannias have a smaller premium. So if you care about the premium, buy the Britannia. I personally prefer sovereigns, but Britannias are nice too. So yeah, I would buy sovereigns. Michael Biggins, I know the logistics of gold, silver confiscation make it unlikely for physical metals to be seized, but is my allocated silver safe? The thing is, if it's in the UK, allocated means that you don't really have the silver, in my opinion. You only get your silver when you take delivery, and then they'll charge you VAT as well. I don't trust holding. Yeah, I prefer having physical silver, and they could just cancel the contract, this allocated silver account. They could just like say, well, if silver were to spike to 50 pounds or 100 pounds, they wouldn't give it to you because I personally think a lot of these people who say they have silver don't, these companies. That's my view. Uber Ducker says, smash the like button. Thank you. Let's see some other things that so this, let's have a look. Oh yeah, I thought this tweet, well, I think maybe some of you saw this last week. It was from Wall Street Journal from the 20th of September. They said gold loses status as haven. So a lot of people are saying that this is a contrarian indicator. And if you look at Business Week, April 2019, they said, is inflation dead? Question mark. A new era has some frightening downsides. So, and now we've got massive inflation. I thought that was interesting, this Wall Street Journal article or headline. Stop sharing. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, there's been talk as well of a coup that Xi Jinping, the president of China, has been deposed in a coup. But I think that's just a rumor and really rubbish. So there's a German, I think, reporter. He's in Beijing, and he took loads of photos, and things seem to be quite normal over there. So I think all it is fake news about China. I don't know why people would want to start that. Oh yeah, someone asked earlier if the Bank of England was going to have an emergency meeting to raise rates. And this is coming out of people like this. Bank of England urged to intervene to protect credit rating after bombshell. It's just speculation. They could come out and raise rates. Not sure it would help. Murray Kerr, thank you for your super chat. Good evening, Mary. When would be the right time to sell exchange gold for UK property? Yeah, I've done videos about that before. The average nationwide house price in the UK, the ratio with gold, and in the last 70, 60 years, the low has been like 90 ounces for the average house price. I think we're still around 130 or 40. So yeah, 90 ounces for the average house price could be a good level to enter, even though I think the way things are going, it could go even, you might need even less than 90 ounces for the average house price, average house. What temperature is it? I think I was driving today. I went out this morning and I think it was 16 degrees Celsius. It wasn't very warm. So, and I think in the evening, I think last night it got below 10 degrees Celsius. Benji Watson thinks gold will go to 5 figures once this crisis is done. Fritz, what percentage do you advise to invest in stocks, metals, cryptos? Well, I think it depends on each individual and their risk threshold, well, the kind of risk they want to take. I personally, I don't know. I think even investing in yourself and helping family members is also an investment. But I would say some people say, oh, we have to have 5% in gold and the rest in stocks and bonds. I think now you want to have it almost the other way around, to be honest. And this is not advice. Cryptos, I have some exposure to crypto, but not much. I do have a crypto fund I bought in 2016. On paper, it's done well, but it's not a publicly traded fund. It's a bank to the future fund. Yeah, I think I would look at gold and silver and precious metals as savings. So you need to know how much. Some people prefer saving more than others. That's the way I look at it. Daniel says, are you short on GU? Let's see. I don't know what GU is. So let's see, share price. What is GU? Genpact? Never heard of GU. What is GU? Sorry. David Buseman. Why are fiat systems always exponentially increasing money supply debt? Well, I think it's because it's a debt-based system, and when you issue the debt, there's interest to be paid, and that interest, that money doesn't exist. So it's like you have to keep issuing more debt to cover the interest, and it just snowballs. And also governments and banks abuse it because they don't have any anchor, and then people get suckered into debt. And I think in the last 40 years especially, it was just the way the cycles were. I know there are manipulations, but interest rates topped in 1981, and for 40 years everything was really easy to access debt, and it's a good thing in that people have easy access to debt. But the flip coin is that we get all indebted and we do things we shouldn't, and then we come to the end of the road, which is where I think we are now. Dean says GU is GBP/USD. Oh, I never heard of yeah, I know GBP/USD. Well, no, I don't have any dollars. I'm short GBP, GBP/XAU. That's what I'm short. Stephen Ross Holmes, thank you for your super chat. Glint, Kinesis, Stacker offer storage for free. I have always found there is never something for nothing what we're giving up to. I think Glint, from the last I heard, Glint charges storage fees. They might not charge it. They could do a deal for you for the first year, but Glint charges a storage fee. They might have changed it, but no, I don't think it's the same as Kinesis. I will be speaking to the Glint CEO, hopefully getting him an interview with him next week. And he wants to talk about CBDCs because he thinks he's totally against CBDCs as well. Oh, Richard Mountains, thank you very much for your super chat. Enjoy lunch with Mrs. Monaco and get a treat for Billy. Thank you very much, Rich Mountains. We actually went out for lunch yesterday, my wife and I. We had a nice lunch. maybe next week. Yeah, that's the other thing. Someone asked me, how do you deal with are you in fear and stuff? No, you need to keep doing what you do best. I mean, everyone has their own specialization. And I think just knowing what's happening, that things are not really great financially, is you will be a step ahead of everyone else. The other thing I would say is not be so tough on people that don't know what's going on, and maybe even help them. I think that's a good thing, because a lot of times when you help people, you get a lot back as well. I've learned that with time. Yeah, not to be that selfish. Yeah, $100 is almost £100 now. About a year ago, it would have been about £70. BP, if countries collapse, will their respective mints still operate and supply sovereign gold? Yeah, you know, in the I think up until the late 50s, the Royal Mint had stopped minting sovereigns. So it could affect the mints. They might stop minting coins, gold coins, for the public, because they might need the gold to back the currency. So that is possible. That's why I think while we can buy from easily buy coins, we should. And alternative, you see Mario's playlist from past years. He has categorized certain subject matter. Yeah, I've got quite a few playlists, and yeah, there's a lot of topics there covered, and I'll keep increasing the amount of videos and playlists as well. Echo, I wish I had access to a channel like yours back in the early 2000s. Well, you know, YouTube wasn't really around at that time. And I wish I knew what I knew now back in the 90s as well. Netty New Hawk, will you be taking part in the Economic Ninjas silver mining stocking drive this Christmas? Haven't heard of that. Don't really know what it is. So yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I'll have a look into it. Belly Dance Arabia, Sarah Brown, nice again. Spock 2024 says there will be still private mints. That's true. You know, the Royal Mint and the Perth Mint, they were originally owned by the Rothschilds. The Royal Mint used to be called the Royal Mint Refinery, and it was up until 1968, it was owned by the Rothschilds, and so was the Perth Mint. Brady Girding, every morning and listen to all the ads all the way through to donate to Mario. Thank you, that helps. I mean, I when I watch YouTube, I skip sometimes the videos, sorry, the ads. But for example, if I'm watching, let's say, the Duran or another channel, and the long advert comes and I need to go to the toilet, I'll just go to the toilet, let it run, come back. I do that as well. Sometimes they're short, very short adverts that you can't skip, but they're only about 10, 15 seconds. I've noticed it on other channels. Alan Mersick, will you mean the UK join the European Union again? I don't think so. Augie Og says he heard some Australian banks are closing accounts. Haven't heard about that. I spoke to John Adams this morning because I interviewed him and he didn't say anything about that, even though we're talking about a different subject. Carlos Garcia, please invite Professor Michael Hudson. He works with David Rockefeller. Yeah, I've heard this guy before. Not sure I'd want to interview him. I think he's a bit of a socialist. So, but I'll look into it. From what I've heard, he's a bit of a Keynesian or a lefty. And my channel is more free market and small government. I think David Rockefeller died a few years ago. He was 101. I don't know, maybe he still works for the family. Kilo Humperdinck, I need to sell my house and move to another place. Should I sell and rent? I don't know where you are. I'd rather own my house than rent if you can own your own house. I don't know why you'd want to sell it. I don't look at my house as an investment in terms of, because if the value of my house were to drop by 50%, houses everywhere would drop by 50%, and you have to live somewhere, unless you have more than one. Billy wants to come down. Billy, come and say hello. There he is. Say hello, Billy, to everyone. There you go. We're going to take Billy to the vets tomorrow for a checkup, just to see how he's doing. William Middlecop. Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah, he's around a lot. William Middlecop. I've been following him for a few years. I've had quite a few of interviews lately. I'm going to be interviewing a few people next week, so I won't tell you. It's a surprise. Billy No Mates. Yeah, that's why, when we got Billy in 2008, and we call him the credit crunch puppy as well. We called the breeder, and he had Billy was the only one left. And he said, he's got a name. I said, well, what's his name? And he said, it's Billy No Mates, because all his siblings had gone and he was on his own. And it's funny because our previous dog was called Billy as well. So he's Billy the second too. Yeah, he does look, Shih Tzus do look like Ewok. No, it's not Mark Faber. I've interviewed Mark Faber a few times on the channel. It's someone I have never interviewed, so I think people will like him. Jim Rickards, I interviewed him in 2020. I've contacted him about a month ago, and he said he was a bit tied up right now, but to maybe at the end of the year, he would come on again. Jordan Peterson. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. BP in the UK, sovereigns and Britannia's the property of the king, and when demanded, people will have to give it back. I don't know if it's the property of the king or the queen up until recently, because it's yours, it's physical, it's got their face on it. I think the only thing you can't do is melt them down here, but you can melt them down in another country. I think a lot of sovereigns and Britannias, especially sovereigns, sometimes if they melt them down in Belgium. That's what I heard. But as I said, anything's possible. But if we think like that they can take anything we have, we might as well give up, I would say. But in the scheme of the situation that we are now, in the scheme of things, with all the inflation, all the currencies, especially the pound going down, I think is still a good thing to have. Jim Sinclair, no, I haven't. I would love to interview him. I have contacted the people that work for him several times in the last few years, but never really got any response. I don't think he's doing too many interviews now either, but I'll keep it in mind. What do you think about price limits? You mean the price capping for the utility prices, all these packages their governments are trying? It's not going to work. Yeah, it will work in the short term, but all it will do is create even more shortages because it's been done in the past. Even the Romans and, for thousands of years, governments have tried to cap prices, and all it does is create shortages, and eventually prices are going to go even higher because producers are a lot of times they're not gonna bother producing because the price at which they can sell their products will be lower than than it costs for them to produce it. Godfrey Bloom would make an interesting guest. Yeah, I think he's pro sound money, Godfrey Bloom. Yeah, the other guys you guys are mentioning are all interesting. G. Edward Griffin, Michael Pinto. Yeah, Andrew Watson thinks Nigel Farage. I don't know about Nigel Farage. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things he says I agree with, but financially, I'm not too sure. Yeah, he is for free markets, but he never talks about, cutting the size of government. He never talks about sound money, things like that. I think he's a little bit too, he might seem alternative, but I think he's more of a Tory, really. And there's very few Tories that are pro sound money. Stephen Baker, I'd probably like to interview him, and I could probably get him on, Stephen Baker, even though sometimes I wonder why he's not more forceful about his ideas. Yeah, I have watched Jim Willie in the past. I haven't seen him around that much lately. Pablo Pino, Lior Gantz. I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, actually, Lior. John Titus, I've interviewed him a few times on the channel. I like John Titus. He doesn't make too many videos, but when he does, they're very good. As I said, Jim Rickards, I've contacted him maybe at the end of the year. I did an interview with him, I think it was April 2020. Greg Menarino, well, the thing is, my channel is more of me talking about things. and I do interview people. And I think Greg Manarino and I, our ideas are quite similar. So yeah, it could be interesting interviewing him, but Richard Martin, yeah, I have had guests that think differently. I interviewed this guy from the States a few months ago, who believes in investing in government bonds that are the I bonds, and very mainstream, a Washington lawyer. But I only got got very few views because people don't expect me to interview that kind of people. I interviewed Bill Silver, who used to advise the New York Fed. He's written books about silver. He's very mainstream. So yeah, I have interviewed, and I even recently interviewed Lord Lilly. He used to be an MP, Tory MP, and we spoke about like the Climate Change Act of 2008. And I agree with him on that. He voted against that, but he's still a very pro, I said that we should get government down to 10% GDP, and he thought that was too low. So over here says, all my local neighborhood banks go to the Federal Reserve through JP Morgan. Even the cash currency comes from Chase. Yeah, there is a risk and all that. If they're linked to JP Morgan, but I would say JP Morgan is probably the safest bank because it's the US government's bank. So in the scheme of things, it's probably the best one, best of a bad bunch. Yeah, Boris Johnson was supposedly a libertarian. I went to, I think it was 2004, Libertarian Alliance, like a do in London. There were a few speakers, and actually Boris Johnson was there speaking. And I didn't get to meet him, but I met Samuel Britton, who was, I think he's passed on, but he was an economist. But I don't think he's yeah, there's a note saying about watch what people do, not what they say. And I think that's the case with Boris Johnson. He's not really I would say he's if anything, left-wing authoritarian, seeing what he did when he was prime minister. Alex, do you think they will try a mini reset when they introduce King Charles currency? No, I don't think the King Charles currency has anything to do with currency reform. It's just a change of banknotes. And if they're going to do a reset, it can't be a mini one. It has to be something that solves the problem. Intervene Klaus Schwab. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he'd accept my invitation. Hillary. Well, one guy I would love to interview would be Alan Greenspan, because I like to get behind his his head to see what made him flip from being like a sound money advocate and disciple of Ayn Rand to become chairman of the Federal Reserve. I'd like to interview Alan Greenspan if I could. Gerald Celente. Well, I'm not sure. Gerald Celente is interesting, but his language could be a problem for my channel. His profanity. My wife was listening to him yesterday, and I was surprised the kind of swearing he was doing on YouTube. But he's an interesting guy too. Anyways, we got a couple of minutes to go. BP, will the monarchy be able to make it after all this? I don't really know. I mean, that's not something I'm too concerned about. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's definitely something that is a problem for them. They need to stay on the. I think my wife told me about this because she likes watching a lot of the Chinese historical dramas, and I think it was one of the emperors in China said that the people are the ocean, and the king or the emperor is a vessel. And if you don't have support of the people, your vessel will sink. There will be no ocean. So yeah, the monarchy needs to be in tune with the public because they don't have they're not popular with the public, they won't survive. Oh, you want to be interviewed, Lord Humongous? Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. Yeah. Next week, I've got quite a few people I'm going to interview, and then maybe in October we can do something. I'll keep in touch. Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell has just printed $9.99. Thank you, Jerome, for your super chat. Have your people call my people. Can you move that decimal point to the right a few times? Mario can interview me, I don't swear. All right, so that's it. It's time for me to go. So I'm going to wish you all a good rest of the weekend, or if you're in Asia, a good Monday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. And if this is your first time on the listening to me, or that you just found my channel now, make sure that you subscribe if you enjoy what I have to say in my videos. Thanks again, and take care, everyone.